Hi, my name is TJ. My dad died of overdose on January 1st, 2011, and my mom is a recovering addict. God helped my mom, and now together we are here to help you. Now let's talk recovery. Here's your host, my mom, Susan Sexton Wood.
Hi, and welcome to Unchained Praises, Let's Talk Recovery. I'm your host, Susan Sexton Wood. Today, our guest is Tasha Drysdale. Tasha will speak to us about her active addiction and about her recovery and what she's doing today in her life. We want to let you know if you are struggling and you need help and that you're in active addiction or you're in recovery struggling about going back to active addiction, we want to let you know that there is help out there. And so through Unchained Praises, we are a nonprofit organization and we want to listen, connect, and motivate you into your recovery. Hi, and welcome, Tasha.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Well, first, I'm just going to ask you to kind of share your testimony. What was life like in active addiction?
Well, I grew up in church. I grew up very young in the Word. And when I was 19, I was real sheltered. I was raped in college. Not only raped, I was dragged by two other men, and I was really, really beat. He was a serial rapist. That kind of triggered my, I'm going to do life my way, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And met my son's father, got into spice, weed addiction, meth, alcohol, anything that can make me not feel the world. Got into a sex addiction really bad where I didn't want any intimacy. I just wanted everything to be, I please my flesh, I please myself, and then that's it, leave me alone. It wasn't until about 2016 when I had slapped my mom's in the face. I had no clue I did it in her house, and I'm glad she did not put I about met Jesus that day with her. But she kicked me out, and I was on the streets for 2 weeks, and I haven't ate, I didn't eat, I didn't shower, and I just had a feeling I needed to get clean. I got held at gunpoint. The Mexican, and I'm not racist, but I just remember that about him, was getting ready to pull the gun, and I heard it click back, and there was a guy to my right who reminded me of the dad off of Roseanne, a bigger guy, so he doesn't move very fast, and he screams, "Hey," and we look away, and I look back, and he's gone. And that, to me, was my guardian angel. That was me saying, God's like, you need to get, you're done for. I go to my mom's the next day. I admit to everything that I've done. Mom, I've been on meth for 10 years. We lost my sister, 5 years ago to heroin. I watched her, overdose on that. I said, I want to get clean. And she said, what do you want? I said, I'm on meth. We went to the hospital, and I found out that I was pregnant, 4 months pregnant with my daughter. Nobody would take me except for Wendy from Crossroads. She was the only one that would even talk to me. And I remember I was so mean to her because she woke me up from my little nap. And she was just so pleasant. And so I can't wait to see you. And let me come the next day or the next week, and been here since.
So you said that you were in college. Did you finish a degree?
No.
What were you doing?
I was going for elementary education, but I actually have a dental assistant license, a vet tech certificate, and it's a substitute license. So I'm kind of trained and certified in every area.
Okay. So if you had a dream job, what would it be?
I would be Beth Moore's sidekick. I love Beth Moore. I would be her, Joyce, a mix between Joyce Meyer and Beth Moore, and get on stage and talk, and just kind of let people know the reality of what everything is,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So through your time at Crossroad, share with us some of the emotions that you were going through trying to get better, but also you were pregnant too, so you were probably had more emotions than a lot of the other girls.
I was going to say, I don't know what I would do without Wendy, because she listens to everybody's complaints, but she would definitely listen to mine and be like, I just respect you. I couldn't do this and change. I was terrified because I didn't know who I was sober and not pregnant. But it wasn't as hard to get over the relapse and the withdrawing because I think I was pregnant. I had that distraction. It was great watching Wendy, Tom, Karen, Paul, all of them start to get like I don't want to say rehab baby because, I don't want to be a rehab baby, but they got an attachment to her. So it was awesome watching women who's never been a Christian before, never read the word, click. Like that was my favorite part because where I lack faith, they have it. I have the knowledge, they don't. So it was kind of cool to bounce off each other and.
So you, in a way, meant towards some of the girls there because you were raised with God and you knew about the Bible. But like you said, when some people come in, especially off the streets, and they haven't had that in their life, that it is almost it's an awakening.
It is because it's when they get it. And that smile, it's like you want that back. You're like, oh, because you know what it's like. So it was, those girls they probably helped me more with my recovery than some of the classes, because I knew where I'd come from and what God protected me from was more than what I should have asked for. I mean, it was, it kept calling on my life and calling on my life. And it was like, why can I have some of the faith that these girls do? It's amazing. I love that. I love Crossroads. I will never stop giving to that ministry. It's such an amazing ministry.
Well, and sometimes when you talk about the faith thing, we're human, so we're flesh.
Right.
And it is hard to walk in faith all the time, even when you've learned kind of how to do it and you build your relationship with God and that strengthens. Life still happens, so sometimes it is still a struggle. So when you graduate at Crossroad, and they had like a baby shower and everything for you, didn't they?
Well, they didn't. When we graduated, it was the night before election, so it was busier that Sunday night than ever. And it was good. I was about 7 months pregnant, and I started volunteering here at the church because I knew I wanted to stay. So I had a baby shower a week before I had my daughter, and that's when my first relapse happened. And I relapsed. Tom, he doesn't say much, but he knows every girl that sticks around. He knew it. He told Wendy that I needed to go to the hospital, and I had Grace, and it's just been a journey from there. But I still adore Tom and Wendy. I mean, like you said, we're human, and I was naive to think that 4 months, 6 months, 8 months would change 10 years of issues. I'm still having addictive attitudes and qualities. It's just not focusing and putting it on that. I couldn't imagine my mentality now high. I don't even want to imagine that.
Well, and that's where our support team is supposed to be there to hold us accountable.
Right.
And that's what it sounds like they did. Can you share with us why you went through the relapse? What you believe kind of led you to that?
Going to old places. I went back to my hometown and went to Walmart. Wasn't even there 5 minutes, and I seen somebody, and we didn't even think, oh, you're pregnant. I shouldn't be giving this to you. Oh, I'm pregnant. I shouldn't be taking it. It was, oh, I'm scared. Let me numb my pain. And then it made things worse because I missed meetings and I triggered, she was born, with a little bit of an addiction. It wasn't as bad as heroin or meth, but it was enough for me to be like, what did I do to her? So, and what did I do to lose this position and have to see Wendy go through the decision of kicking me out? And then, just realizing that little buzz was not even it wasn't really worth it.
Right. So you learned from it. You see that a lot of times when a relapse happens, and I'm guilty, I've relapsed. It definitely is not a fun thing. And if you've built a relationship with God, it is spiritually horrible. And
I was going to say, the Soul on Fire was when I was at Crossroads, it was our song. And I felt like he literally made my soul on fire. Like I couldn't keep anything out both ways. I mean, I couldn't get out of bed. And I mean, I was honestly just coming out at both ends, and my insides felt like he was literally twisting them. Like my soul was on fire, and I just feel like my next relapse will be my last. I just had that feeling that God's like, for 10 years you've done the devil's work. Me being my child, I'm not going to let you keep going the way you do.
Right.
So
what kind of things did you start doing to pull yourself out of that?
I met with you. I actually met with a few people. I went to a lot more meetings. You have to have somebody. I had to have somebody that took over my account, that knew where every money was going to. I couldn't jack around. You know, I had mentors like Ed Unger, who I would go and mow 4 miles of a yard with a push mower, or with the, you know, and he's laughing because he's seeing me work. It was just, he's building, you know, and he's building stuff in me. You know, Janie she was very good at, this is not how you should act, you know, and all that. So if you don't have a support group, I see how quick it is to go back on the streets and say, forget this. I don't want to do this anymore. So.
Right. So you went a short time where was it your mom had your daughter just for a little bit while you picked yourself back up?
Yeah.
And now you have both of your kids.
Yeah.
So share with us life today.
Life today, I'm honestly, and this is the honest truth, I am not as happy as I thought I would be. I don't know if I'm waiting for some big shebang to come and say, this is life as an adult. Woo, it's fun. It hasn't happened yet. And I don't get a lot of time with my son. This is a very important time for us because he's seen everything in my addiction versus my daughter hasn't. She's, you know, 16 months and you're just the biggest brat in the world, you know, and they're arguing. I work a lot. It's just very, I'm sober because I'm going through the emotions and I want to be, but I'm not working on the faith or what I need to work on. But it's awesome. My mother said, my son looked at me and said, you're actually looking at me, Mom. And I just bawled right there and was like, I am. So it's busy. It's harder, you know, because you can't handle stuff like, you know, somebody my age would. But I wouldn't trade it. Yeah. I would not trade it. I wouldn't. I don't want to go back to where God's wringing my insides out. I'm good on that.
Well, and you're a single mother too, which puts a lot more pressure. A lot more pressure. And you've had a job for 6 months now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I get to listen to people take complaints on shoes. And I think it helps me realize that after you hear 8 hours of complaints on shoes, I don't want to complain about anything.
Right. It's become more grateful.
I go home and I'm just humble and everything's great. So it has been my first job where even if I'm sick, I can make myself go to, you know, I have no reason to miss because I'm not dope sick. So it's been that discipline in myself that I've done just to get to work, even when I felt like I just need a day off. I worked 3 days.
Right.
I'm proud of myself, so.
Well, that's good. And one thing that helps us in our recovery is to acknowledge that. Like, you had to work for your recovery, so owning your recovery and being proud of yourself, that's huge because you said at the beginning you didn't even know who you were.
Right.
So for us to get to the point where we know who we are and be proud of who we are, but not really dwell on the past, reflect on it, and know that we wouldn't have made the choices that we've made if we weren't under the influence when we were in active addiction. So some of the things that you talked about with the sexual abuse, did you were in some counseling for that, right?
No, I didn't. I actually was really sheltered. So when that happened, you instantly think it's your fault and you clam up. And I started rebelling. And my mom said, you know, at that time, looking back, she could tell that something had happened. And I didn't go to counseling. I thought that weed and, you know, drugs could fix it. I'll eventually get over it. And it just triggered how I treated, you know, the first man in my life, my son, to how I treated myself, to how I really treat men in general. When really, to me, I grew up in a Christian home where you don't treat men like that. So it's, I've gone from Superman to, you know, the size of an ant in my mind in this recovery, you know, and I'm constantly humbled. I don't want to not be anything else but humble.
Right. Well, in the treatment center at Crossroad, you had counseling, right?
Yes. Oh,
so,
yeah.
So you did get to work on some of the
and
past.
And actually, I remember Karen always likes to break us. And I know for 2 weeks, I was like, you're not going to break me. She's like, I'll get you. Well, we had watched a video about PTSD, and I didn't know what that was. And it was about rape. And I remember going to the bathroom, and I ran, and I puked, and I cried. And she was so happy. She said, I knew it. I got you. Now we can start working.
Right.
So that's when I got to Crossroads. That's when I realized I can't be mad at God. Even though he was there, he didn't want it to happen. You know, and it took, you know, my counselor to say, you know, look at it as if God was getting raped. And I didn't want to look at it like that until they really broke it down to me and thought, you know, for years I stayed mad at God. for allowing a man to take something that I wanted to say for marriage, because it says to do that in your word, so why would you let this happen? When really, when I got high and I would, when I robbed somebody, why'd he let me do that? So it's kind of being in crossroads and having a bunch of people in your ear. You, Karen, you guys, it's an eye-opener. Like, it's kind of like, you want to get mad when somebody's getting away with something, and like you said, it's because they're getting away with it and you're not, and it's like, that's it. So I would go back to Crossroads anytime. I mean, I would just, the girls just have no clue what a blessing that is.
Yeah.
If they really take it and just go with it, then they can really, really have a lot of good people behind their back.
Right.
So.
And it's a free facility. A lot of people, I don't think, understand what Crossroad is. And it's a free facility. You get counseling there. You're very structured. You get to work on your problems by being in a secure, safe place.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I think of when I think of Crossroad. And this just shows like how far Crossroads go. I was there in 2012. And, it's a little bit different today because Wendy runs it, but Karen ran it when I was there. And when it comes to like you sharing that in order for us to heal, we have to let go of some of that, but we have to admit it too. Like if we're holding it in and we're saying that we're fine and nothing's bothering us, then what's the odds of healing?
Oh yeah, it just gets you become more bitter.
Yeah.
And you become one of those Christian atheists, is what I like to call them. So yeah.
So share with us some of your tools of recovery.
Oh man.
And that's, it's either physical, like going to a meeting. There's a lot of mental tools that we can use too.
I was going to say, I'm one of those where I am, my counselor said, when you are intelligent, theology, I can know the Bible. It clicks with me, but that's also Satan knows the word too. So I'm constantly going in my mind. So when it comes to letting it go, I can't. That's the thing where me and God are just always, when are you going to let it go? No, I got it. Let me stress another 6 months about this because this is fun. God just knows when to tug at my heart and bring me to my knees. And I go to my knees and I cry. And he has a way of making me stay humble. I think it just depends on who the person is and how far you did come and what you've seen and who you are as a person. I grew up wanting to be this amazing woman of God. So all the while I'm doing all of Satan's work, I feel, Jesus and Satan just fighting back and forth in me. And it was an uncomfortable, I can't even explain the feeling, like, just Satan, go away. But he's not going to go away when I was sitting here doing this work. But I just constantly, I don't forget where I came from.
Do you listen to music? Do you journal?
I do. I don't journal. I don't. I listen to music. And I play with the kids. I mean, my daughter Grace is a little me. She is a screamer, and she's just so precious that she keeps me so busy that sometimes I don't even have time to really do what I want to do. I mean, it is a discipline to have to do that every day, and I don't do that every day. And when you don't do that, you can tell just a drift in your attitude, or. So I listen to a lot of music and I talk to God all the time. I think people think sometimes when someone looks at me, I'll act like I have a Bluetooth so people don't think I'm crazy because I'm sitting here arguing with God on the phone and I'm like, I really don't have anything that makes it look like I'm talking to somebody. So,
and you talk a lot about God and just what He's done for you. Do you spend time like in the morning or at night doing some devotion?
I do
because
at
we
night.
can talk to God like. I mean, I do it all day. When I'm driving,
Right.
I'm always talking. But there's time, like you said, when you go about your day, it can be overwhelming sometimes. And I know the difference if I take time to just pray and read a little bit, my day is totally different.
Oh yeah. I have actually a devotion book at my desk when I know I'm feeling kind of. I want to jump through these phones to these people because, you're trying to learn how to work and just be around people as an adult. But I feel like I'm 19, but I'm 31. So I'm like, but it's an experience and I feel wonderful. I feel I feel uncomfortable, but I feel great. It's like everything. Like if you're learning who you are still, I still am. But I don't know. I love the relationships I'm getting at work, the fact that my bosses, this position I am with, I'm England's Saucony representative. Like, that's a big ordeal. Like, I want to talk to the Queen almost and say, do you need some sneakers? Like, I can, but that kind of trust is making me feel like, okay, that does, when you do work and you put all your work as if you're working for God alone and nobody else, He does come through, so.
Right, and that's where we have to know who we are in Christ and not let the world kick us down, because we are recovering addicts, and there's a lot of stereotypes that come with being a recovering addict. There is, and so when we learn who we are, and I like to just say, I know who I am in Christ, because He's the one that's changed me. I had to do the work, but He helped me dig deep. He helped me get through all of the working through the discomfort, because it's very uncomfortable working through some of those feelings of, I did this in active addiction. I didn't have my kids, and for Him to help us through that is a big deal.
Oh yeah, the fact that I think it was maybe Tom or Wendy that said, if He's still calling you and tugging on you, then that's good. And I thought, how many times, like, what else could I have done for Him not to have that calling on me? Because I look back and it was like I didn't want it. Like, why different times working out? But it was one of those where I'm here for a reason, because the spiritual battle I feel all the time, but I'm also like, I'm here for a reason, Satan, kind of thing. Be scared of me, kind of thing.
Well, and we are all here for a reason. I don't think we acknowledge that, especially in active addiction. But through our recovery, we actually find our purpose. And just talking to you before we started the show, we talked a little bit about you have a desire to give back. And with your schedule, it's hard right now. But if you just continue to pray about, like, Lord, I want to live in your will and not mine. So if you'll just make a way for me to give back and to encourage other women, that have been through what you've been through, that's the biggest, the most powerful thing you have is your testimony. And to share that with somebody with guns being held to you, and going through sexual abuse, and being in active addiction, and even being in the facility, in a treatment facility, being pregnant and getting to, you got to experience that, and that's.
I can't even explain that. It's so hard to explain. It's like, you just can't, because you're already insane pregnant. So it was just I just knew I was feeling good. I was starting to get color back, and I wasn't looking like The Walking Dead. And I was excited about that, so.
And do you remember going through the emotions of, she kicked, and, getting bigger? And
I think the girls were more excited than I was, because everybody always felt my stomach. I just couldn't go anywhere. And, I think, there was one time I got to the Victory House, and Tom comes over, and he had decorated my room with stuff, and it's like, oh, you're not excited about this, baby. So, it was she didn't kick for a while, so I thought, what did I do? Because when I came to Crossroads, I was 5 months into my pregnancy, and I was my drug dealer's driver. Like, I was, stupid amount of drugs that I was terrified to have her. I thought she was going to have, like, a thumb sticking out of her forehead, and I thought, well, that's what I deserve. And, so it was a lot of emotions of, what if this baby's going to be ugly? But this baby saved my life, so.
And what's her name?
Grace Odell Drysdale.
And that's the reason I said that, is thinking that God's grace is bigger than everything, than what we
can. It's more sufficient, so He sent me His own little pocket of grace, and she's insane.
Well, if you want to share with somebody that may be watching, just encouraging them, if they're in active addiction, if they're struggling, because when we're in recovery, and we can get definitely overwhelmed at times, that's when relapse happens. So if you want to share whatever you feel on your heart with someone that may be watching.
I think it is important if you are struggling, to admit that and be okay with it. I have made some people upset because I'm struggling and they don't understand it, and I honestly can't care anymore about their feelings, because if you hide what you're feeling and it's not authentic, then you're never going to heal. my thing is is don't be afraid to reach out when you're struggling. It might not make some people happy, but it's going to make them happier than if they find you. They're dead. I can't explain how much better that I struggle now with, you reap what you sow. So things are still coming up, and I don't get a lot of help, and life is hard, but it's so much better. It's so much worth it. It's so much fun to be able to remember the stress of life than to be like, what was I stressing about? And I have to re-stress about it. No matter what you feel or no matter what Satan's telling you, you are better and you can do better. He don't care about you. He knows where he's going in the end, so he just wants everybody there to have fun and be in hell because he's miserable. He does not care about you. That drug is not good. That drug isn't going to make this man or that woman want you, this car to come. All it is going to do is steal, kill, and destroy.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, part of recovery is definitely truth. If we cannot be truthful with ourselves, then we have trouble being truthful with those around us. We learn how to like ourselves, and we grow into learning how to love ourselves. And so trying to please the world fades away a little bit, and we learn how to just continue to build our relationship with God and strengthen our lives in Him so that we know who we are in Christ. And sometimes it could be very hard to walk in faith, and it could take practice. I can say through my life, and I have over 5 years of sobriety time, even through that time, there's been times that my strength and my faith is very strong, and there's times that I have trouble doing it. I jokingly say sometimes I can stress out about going to the grocery store, but when I signed a 2.5-year plea in 2013 and God told me that I would not go to jail because He would not put old with new, I walked through that in very strong faith. And so a big part of recovery is to build your support and to learn what your tools of recovery are. And that could be one-on-one sessions with someone. It could be peer support groups. It could be part of it is going to an inpatient facility. And we talked a little bit about Crossroad for Women, and that is in Richmond, Indiana. It is a free facility, and so you don't need insurance to go, and God definitely leads the women that need to be in the program at the right time. And so if you're struggling and you are a woman, we encourage you to call Crossroad and to just go through the process. God definitely opens doors. Sometimes I have seen the waiting list at a few weeks, and sometimes I've seen where you could go the next day. And so God's hand is always in the mix, and it takes a while to learn how to build a relationship with God, and that does take time. But we encourage you to reach out to others around you and start believing in yourself. Until you believe in yourself, you can surround yourself with people that will encourage you, that will love you, and that will lift you up until you learn how to lift yourself up. We want to thank Tasha for being on the show and taking time out of her day to share her testimony. And, she has her kids back. She has a full-time job, and she's building her life in recovery. We want to thank you for watching Unchained Praises. Let's Talk Recovery. You have a blessed night. And if you need us, remember to call because we're here.